I know that there is an ambition to be able to go sample less.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that would be very interesting because I've talked to a lot of fashion brands over the years, and very few people actually dare to make that statement
Hmm.
out of many reasons. So it would be interesting to just hear how come Name It has that ambition. Where does it come from? How well is it
Uh-huh.
made? So yeah, I mean anything really on that topic.
Yeah. Well, certainly one of the biggest drivers of that is sustainability. Not only Name It, but as a bestseller as a whole, we've always been very focused on this aspect, which is key. So, of course, if you want to go sustainable, then samples is probably the first place you want to look into. And we tend to design 10,000 new styles every year. Of course, we have some that we just that are high performing, so of course we keep them. But you always need to follow trends. In fashion, there's always new trends. You need to grasp stuff that you need to be on the lookout for. In order to do this, you need to try and explore different styles, different fabrics, different fittings, and so on and so forth. So certainly sustainability is one of them. But then, and surely when you are cutting samples, then also the economic part is a key factor on it. But also commercially, like if we look into when you're selling the collection, and we take away all the digital tools, the technology that we use right now, which is go back a couple of years from now. So we're selling traditionally. So we only have the physical samples. We're not really sampling every single style in what we call the style family, if you will. So we might have the t-shirt in one color variant, and then we have the pant in the second color variant. But then the sweatshirt, the sweatpant, and the cardigan, we don't have any samples for it. So if I'm trying to sell to you, you might even say, okay, I like the t-shirt color variant number one. So now you have to imagine the pant in the color variant number one. And that, let's say you can do it. I have the physical sample, you just have to imagine a little bit. But then you need to imagine the three other styles that you don't have anything to work on. So what are you, as the customer, going to end up doing? You're only going to buy what you're seeing, so the t-shirt and the pant. So we're missing out on turnover, but the customer is actually missing out on the ability to actually sell the entire set to
Okay.
his own customers, and that's a lot missed turnover and opportunities for them. So that also is like incredibly useful to have this digital way of selling, where we can, with just a few clicks, we have the ability to see not only the five styles, but as you said, compare them with perhaps another theme. Because maybe we have the theme with rainbows, and then we might have the theme with butterflies, whatever the case might be. And then the customer can see, okay, I think that this one will look much better in my shop because I can already visualize, okay, I'm going to put it this way in that corner over there because it fits very well with this and the other thing, as opposed to just having to imagine.
Yeah. So you're saying like going sample free selling is actually both sustainably more reasonable, uh,
Mhm.
economically because you don't have to produce. That would also be fun
And
to hear.
ship.
Yeah, exactly. Shipping and handling, the time, I guess, also for sales reps to deal with.
Absolutely.
And then you're finally saying maybe there are more stuff, but you also said that by going sample free, you set up for a digital path, I guess, where you can actually
Mhm.
enhance the ability for the customers to imagine, because they don't have to imagine anymore, the various
Yeah.
combinations of products that can create an outfit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, like, just the time spent on it, you mentioned it is actually a very key factor because, of course, if you think of one sales rep in a showroom, then when a collection period is over, you need to take down the collection, pack it away, and then you need to unpack the other collection sample has arrived. And you need to put it up nicely. However, as we all know, logistics is a very complex machine, and sometimes you can have delays. So even before selling, let's say we're doing a collection meeting and we're taking a look at the selection that we want to do for, let's say, Spain. If you don't have all the samples and you have no way to see all the other styles besides, I don't know, printed overview, then you don't have this entire scheme of your whole selection. You might miss out on styles that actually could be very well for your market and for your customers, and then it's just a domino effect going forward.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the process because that's quite interesting as well. The transition and how you imagine the transition happening when you go
Yeah.
sampleless. Obviously, already today there is limitations in the showrooms. I've seen some of your showrooms; they're big. There's also some that are very, very
Yeah.
small, and it's obvious that you cannot feature like a lot of the samples in some of these showrooms. But then you have maybe we can touch upon salespeople or concerns rather with this type of strategy. So how do you think about showrooms? What do
Uh-huh.
salespeople? about going sample-less. What do you think customers are thinking about it? How do you imagine to mitigate? Because now it's all
Mhm.
be digital one way or another, right? So
Yeah.
as digital responsible, how do you imagine doing this transition? Because if I didn't mishear you, you said 2026. That's not many years away.
If I came here and told you, yeah, of course, we would just went all over the market and said, well, forget about the samples. We're going to go digital. And everybody said, yeah, great, awesome. Let's go ahead and do it. That would be a lie. I can tell you this funny anecdote when I went to Malmo, actually, in Sweden. The first training we ever done on this digital showroom setup we have. And a colleague and I, we brought a touchscreen, to do the training and so on. And I'll never forget the face of one of the sales reps. And she was like, "What on earth is this alien that you bring into my showroom?
Yeah,
Right? What is this big touchscreen? Right?" And of course, you always get the question, you're planning to replace us?
yeah,
No, that's not going to happen because we're trying to digitalize the way of selling, but the knowledge of the sales rep always will be a key ingredient to actually generate the correct sell, let's say, process to the customer to direct them into buying what they actually will sell right throughout their shops, because that's a key factor. But essentially, what you need to do is to try little by little and get some success stories, and this is what we do. Well, that's what we did. We started out with 3 markets, so the DACH region at the beginning, and just tested out not the whole collection, just little subsets. Things that we were already cutting down on organically. Because as I said, if it's something that you're already selling, the customers know the fabrics, they know the fit, they just change the color. You don't really need to sample it all the time, right? And we got some very great success stories in doing that. So that gave us also the confidence to, okay, now we have proven that this can work. It not only work just for the fact that you just substitute the physical sample into the digital one, but actually generates value, generates turnover, and also makes it more efficient. And from there, we just started to think, okay, which are the markets that right now are ready to make that switch? And then we just started to essentially go visit the markets, because we tried to do some online meetings. And as you well know, when you do online meetings, yes, of course, you can pass the message across, but it's another thing to actually, especially when you're talking in English, that might not be your mother tongue. You might not be that comfortable in asking the question. It's something new. You've always been selling with physical samples. You're not that comfortable in asking the question that may sound stupid at the beginning. Whereas if we are there physically, I can read your body language. I can see if you actually have a question, you're not that inclined to say it. So I can, kind of like quote unquote poke you in trying, to get that question. And then the other key is that when you're there, if you make the sales rep comfortable in making that switch, meaning put them into a simulated situation where they need to create the presentation of all the different styles digitally instead of doing it with the samples. And then I would act as a sales rep. And thankfully, with my experience with the Italian team, I kind of know the language they're talking into, because this is another key. Instead of going there and be like, drag and drop, put it into the script. No, no, no. Move the style next to this other set, because then it will make the outfit nice. And I said exactly the same. I just translated into their language of the sales reps.
I think that's a
And
very strong selling point from a capability of the digital person, like digital responsible in your case, to actually have that insight, that know-how of how sales reps uh, benefit of using digital
yeah,
technology. There's a lot of times they're very siloed, right? Like the digital department doesn't really know exactly how the
yeah,
sales reps work, which don't really know how the other teams work, and so on. So I think that's a very key factor that I've seen you guys are you're doing excellently.
yeah. I mean, it's also a factor of trust that we build with the sales reps in the market. Because of course, why would they even listen to me in terms of, yeah, you've worked like this for 25 years now, because I'm here and tell you that now you're gonna have to use this technology. Why? Because it's fun. No, you need to build that trust between you and them, just so that when they have a challenge, they will come forward to you instead of just, okay, what am I going to do now when I have the customer next to me?
Can you
That
give an
is
example of
huge.
could you give an
Surely.
example of how you I mean, yes, how you build that trust, basically? What
Yeah.
happens, and yeah, what increases it?
Yeah, so essentially what you need to do is that you need to kind of like empathize with them, and not like when you go down there and you just say, well, now you're gonna have to sell this way. No, no, no. You need to kind of tell them, I know this is hard and I'm here to help you out. Let's do it step by step. And I'm not going to leave this meeting until I fully understand and feel that you're comfortable with it. So
Mm,
let's make some increasingly hard exercises. So let's start with building up the collection digitally as opposed to physically. From there, I will maybe ask you, okay, let's do some changes because of course you want to do a selection for the market, but then each and every single customer is changing. It's different. As we said at the beginning, it depends. Is the key word here. So you want to address that also with the way you present your collection digitally. Let's do it with as if I'm the customer. Try to mimic it as if I am the customer, so that you feel a little bit comfortable in it. And at the end, sell to me. I will come and ask you questions. I will come and ask you, can I see the sample? And I promise you, 8 out of 10 sales reps, they just turn around. Oh, here's the sample, which is totally fine, absolutely fine. But then you just make a joke out of it. It's like, you see, you should stay this. You make a laugh about it, and they feel more comfortable. You take down that barrier of, oh my God, I only need to do this. No, no, no. It's a process. I'm not telling you to go from 0 to 100 like from one day to the other. It's a process that you need to go through, and then you can take it at your own pace. And I'll be there to support you.
if I'm not mistaken, I think I've heard that the management, the leadership of Name It
Mhm.
also really commits and believes
Oh, absolutely.
direction, right? So um, I mean, I don't know if the word of threatening is correct, but I think there's been a um, very clear signals to the organization that you better go digital,
Mhm.
better learn how to
Yeah.
work with the new ways, basically, right? So that
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Threatening is not the right word for sure. It's more of a like, we've decided to make this decision, and it's not that we did it, for one day to the other. We tested it out, and we could see the value of it. So we are going to implement this way of working, not only in terms of the selling part to the customers, but also internally. So the step before, when we were deciding, okay, we're going to take in these styles, we're not going to select these styles. Now, this digital way of selling, this digital showroom platform, is so much involved in our system that we had markets that, as you know, some of them are more keen on jumping into the boat, others are more reluctant, which is totally fine. But now, since majority of the markets have started using digital showroom that much, then the markets that were a little bit lacking behind because they didn't want to, they didn't have the commitment, or whatever the case might be, they started to see the potential. They started to kind of like feel left out. I had a market being like, yeah, but now we're not getting the printed material because now it's only digital, but we're not there yet. So again, that's why you should jump in, shouldn't you? Ah,
yeah,
yeah, maybe we should. And here we are, right? So it's a huge support, and it makes things fundamentally easier to have like the management team really committed to this decision, because of course when we need some help, some push, if you say, from the management team, then everybody's very happy to give it. But most importantly, giving the why,
good.
because it's a thing to impose something to you, but it's not a thing to give you a why. And if you give them a big enough why, then the change happens. And then of course, little by little, then they will start to see the value.